Seen you guys in forever. All right, I think we're on live. Dan, we're on live, Mister. Unless you were just standing up to give us, a 360 of your torso there. You want to give us
Yeah,
a
we
full
heard you
body
lost
shot?
15 pounds, Dan. You look great.
I have lost a few pounds.
You look terrific. Terrific. A vision of health. It's been such a long time.
I'm not, but a couple pounds did. It's a puppy. The puppy's burning calories for me.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's been such a long time since I've seen you guys. I know I missed you last week, but it feels like I haven't been here for a month. So it's nice to see your smiling or soon to be smiling faces again. And so welcome to Talking Saratoga, everybody, a weekly podcast with insight on the latest news, debate, and discussion in the city of Saratoga Springs, a place that has never suffered from a shortage of opinions. Just a reminder to everyone that the opinions expressed on Talking Saratoga today do not represent any one organization or group. They are our own. And with that, let's get going, guys. There's been a lot going on. It's been a heavy week in national politics, but also a lot of stuff locally, and then we want to get to.
Yeah, obviously there's been 2 mass shootings in 10 days. One at an elementary school in Texas and one at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. So while these are national issues, certainly have local implications. Would you guys agree?
Yeah,
absolutely. Very local for me. If I could interrupt, the Buffalo shooting, I went to high school with the store manager who was shot in the leg. He fortunately survived. I worked with a trooper when we were both younger troopers whose mother-in-law was killed. She did not make it. So I have 2 connections to that, which, I've been out of Buffalo for 20 some years. It's kind of odd that I have 2 connections to that shooting.
So Dan, I was wondering if I don't know if you have this on hand, but you wrote an editorial in the Saratoga Report about the shooting in Texas. And I was wondering if you would want to quickly share it with our viewers.
Yes, I absolutely can. Thank you. It was, I was strongly affected by the Buffalo shooting and then the Texas shooting. And I just felt I was worried about copycats. Arguably, the Texas shooting was a copycat, same age as the kid. You worry about more, right? You worry about more happening. I still worry about more. We're only 2 days removed from the Texas shooting. And I wrote an editorial and I sent it to every commissioner, the Saratoga as well as the Ballston Spa school districts, the chief of police. And I said, listen, can we just get police officers inside schools for the rest of the school year? I know it's controversial. It's deeper than that. I realize it's not simple. But for the next 3 weeks, can we just get cops inside school buildings and then figure out September? We've got plenty of time to figure out September. Maybe there's a better answer by September. But I'm filling sandbags here, folks. I think, I'm worried about the water coming, and I'm not going to build levees and dikes. I don't have time for that. I got to fill sandbags. So get cops inside the schools. I got some good response from readers. I got a couple negatives from readers, some that I know, some that I don't know. It was a mixed bag, but at least as far as the feedback comes, which is not scientific, more positive than not. The 2 of you, I appreciate the feedback you gave me. I got nothing from the city commissioners. Saratoga schools didn't get back to me. The only school that got back to me was Ballston Spa. The commissioner there got back to me quickly, or I'm sorry, the superintendent there, Clentz, I believe is his name. He's outgoing, and he didn't commit or anything, but he appreciated the effort I made, I guess. And I appreciated that the effort he made, even if he disagrees with me. He didn't say either way. I know where academia is, and it's a lot going on. But the police agencies have responded, and they're trying to have a better presence at schools, maybe not as deep as I thought. I said, if there's a school building, there should be a police officer in it. And I realize that's a less than ideal answer. But again, it was a 3-week answer.
Yeah, that brings up a point where Kathy Hochul actually called on state police to have a more visible presence at schools. So that's not this what was, I think, a partisan issue of law enforcement at school seems to be crossing the line with Kathy Hochul and asking for state police. But Robin, this is a great segue into when you were commissioner. There's a lot of misunderstanding of what a police officer or a school resource officer or a monitor is. And I know this was something that you dealt with while you were on the city council. So can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah, it was actually predated me a little bit. This issue of grounds monitors actually being armed, and the difference between a grounds monitor and a school resource officer really came up in 2018, because it was back in 2018 that the school board voted to not arm the grounds monitors who had been doing the security at the high school for quite some time, I think 30 or 40 years, and every year were approved to carry firearms, even though they were not school resource officers. So that vote back in September of 2018 took the guns away from grounds monitors, and it kind of brought to light this issue of school safety. And people were able to understand, actually there is a big difference between a grounds monitor and a school resource officer. A school resource officer is an on-duty, in uniform, either sheriff's deputy or Saratoga Springs City police officer. So the SRO that we have in the high school right now is Officer Glenn Barrett. So you see him in school, he's in his normal police uniform. He looks, just like you would if you would see him walking the beat. But what he's at school to do is not just to be punitive. He's really there to spot behaviors bubbling up, but before they bubble over. So, and Dan, I know you can probably speak to this as well, but they're there to look to see, if there's a kid who's suddenly sitting by himself at lunch and is not with his normal social group and looks like he might be having some issues, whether it's at home, whether it's in school, and really try to connect with those kids and get them connected to services if they need it. But be on the lookout for things like, abuse at home, abuse in relationships, a whole plethora of things. And be there as a resource, not be there as someone who's constantly being punitive. So I think that's kind of an important thing to point out.
And not limited to, and I think you said that, but not limited to violence, right? There was
correct
school resource officers. They had to deal with a sexting scandal, and they had things like that. They're designed to be proactive, community involved police, and they're not designed to arrest a kid for pot. I mean, obviously there's a way to address that, but they're not, enforcing the law in the hallways like they would on the thruway or something. It's a very proactive, positive role that a school resource officer has.
Correct. And so right now, currently in the entire city school district, which includes all the elementary schools, Maple Avenue Middle School, and the high school, there are 3 SROs in total. And I would love to just quickly get both of your opinions on, I personally feel there should be an SRO in every city school, meaning elementary schools, middle school, and the high school. Like there should be one SRO in every city school. That's my personal opinion. I'm just curious what your opinions are on that. Dan and Adam, I don't know if you have one.
Adam, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'm absolutely for this. I'm a big believer in the I hate to say it, I'm a gun owner who's pro gun control. I think we should have a lot more control of guns. The guns I own, I should not have been able to buy them as easily as I could. I'd like to think of myself a responsible gun owner. I've taken classes, so it's not an issue for me per se, but for, we see that these 18-year-olds who go and shoot up supermarkets and in schools, it's an issue. And really what stops them is a good guy with a gun. And that's the NRA and Whaley Pierre are horrible organizations. I think they do a lot of harm to this country. But after Sandy Hook, that's the one thing I'll ever agree with him about with Wayne Pierre. Is he said the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And it's kind of a catch-22 of, guns beget more guns. But I think that if somebody is in a school shooting it up, the only thing that's going to stop them is another guy with a gun. Now, the question comes in our elementary schools, do school resources officers have to be in police uniforms? I mean, can they be in khaki? The police have like kind of a casual, police casual look. I think those kind of things of the image they're projecting is can be, whether they're, and I don't think anybody's, I've heard people say, oh, they're going to paramilitarize the school and turn into Fort Drum. Nobody's talking, walking around with long guns, ARs, but something that if there is a bad guy with a gun, it's something they can meet force with force. And so I am highly in favor of that. I think it's long overdue, and I just can't understand the argument of how this would be a bad thing if, Robin, as you said, these people, these officers are trained as police officers and trained to, handle that firearm and use it responsibly, which they are. This is not just giving a random person a gun and saying, hey, go defend the school. This is giving somebody whose career it is using these firearms. So absolutely, I'm in favor for it.
Yeah, we and I'm right with you, Adam. I'm a gun owner because I was a state trooper. My father was a police officer. We hunted forever ago. I haven't hunted in 30 years, but I haven't lifted my guns out of the locker in a decade. But I'm not one of these ex-cops that's, every answer is force and guns and so forth. I do believe in, we have to have some comprehensive answers. There are probably some good answers from the left. They're the first ones to point out the mental health issues that we have to address and things like that. So I do, I'm not guns first and guns. I agree with you on the NRA. I don't have much use for them. But this desire to have zero guns in the schools and to immediately reject an answer that involves a school resource officer or an officer with a gun. I don't understand the school district not having the monitors who are all retired police officers. Is that correct, Robin?
So I can't speak to the current group of monitors. Okay. I just don't know. I know back in 2018, they were all retired police officers.
Okay.
So,
hey Dan, real quick though, I gotta disagree with you in one part of the thing you said is that the right is using this mental health thing as it's not guns, it's mental health, which again for me it may be there may be a mental health crisis, but in the meantime it's schools are getting shot up, right? So we need to limit people's access to guns, and for me that argument that the right's making, I think it was Governor Abbott of Texas was up there saying, it's Texas had guns for 60 years and this is just a new problem now and it's a mental health problem. Maybe it is, but the fact that this kid could walk in by 2 ARs, and I understand something that the left doesn't understand is when they say, AR just represents how a gun looks, not to its firing capacity, right, Dan? I mean, it's ARs can fire different calibers, different rates of fire.
But they're easily manipulated to suddenly become fully automatic. That's the problem.
With the AR style weapon.
Yeah, they're supposed to be semi-automatic. You got to pull the trigger each time you get a shot. But with some things you can buy on the internet quickly, you can turn a semi-auto effectively. In essence, it's a rapid-fire auto weapon.
Isn't it just sad, you guys, though, that we're having a conversation about dead children and that we have to talk about it in terms of like left or right? I mean, it feels like one of these times where like, God, shouldn't we all be in the same mindset here? Like this has to stop and it has to stop now. And so whether it's, we have to tackle everything. We have to tackle mental health. We have to be able to make sure schools have adequate resources so they have enough school psychologists so that when there's an issue, there's someone there who can deal with it. We have to change the gun laws across federally need to be changed. There needs to be some standard. But at the end of the day, I feel like we just go through this cycle where everyone's outraged, everyone's devastated, and then nothing happens. And then we reset.
Why aren't there school resource officers in the schools right now?
So I can't speak to this exact moment, but I can speak to the experience I had in 2018. In 2018, that fall, I actually sat down with then Mayor Kelly and Commissioner Michelle Madigan. I wasn't on the city council at the time. To write up a resolution to fund more SROs in the school system from the city, because the city pays into the SROs, so it's kind of a shared cost between the school and the city. So in 2018, we wrote a resolution offering to fund more school resource officers, and the school board at the time just completely ignored the offer, like completely ignored it. We never got a response. So the city was offering to fund more money so we could hire more SROs. And the thing is, if you think about it, guys, like our summertime policing issue with nightlife in downtown and Caroline Street, an SRO is kind of the perfect solution here because you could have them in school from September to June, being an SRO in school. And then from June to September, we can have them downtown when we need that increase in police officers and that increase in manpower. So hiring more SROs for the school kind of has it's a twin solution. It solves two problems, in my opinion. And it's something that should be done. The school system should be working with the city again to try to do something like that,
So if people want to see SROs, they should contact the school board, is what you're saying. They should go to the school board, let them know, email them, write them, because this is our I think we all kind of feel passionate about this, that this is not the perfect solution, but it's one piece of the pie in solving this big problem that's going to take its multiple slices, multiple ideas. But the first thing is that on the ground level is when you have an active shooter, you have a good guy who can meet force with equal or superior force, and that's really the thing that's going to stop a deranged individual.
Yeah.
Well, and the summertime issue. I mean, Dan, don't you think this is like within the contractual, the constraints of contracts and unions and PBAs and so forth? I feel like this is actually like the best solution I've ever come up with in terms of dealing with the increased staffing needs in the summer
Right.
and handling a school safety issue.
It makes too much sense, right? It really
right?
does. And,
yeah.
and I'm not here to say the SROs are the be all and end all. People have pointed out there were SROs at these shootings. They were outgunned because the guy had armor. Same thing in Buffalo. There was a retired police officer, security guard. He got shot and killed. I think he shot at the bad guy and it wasn't effective likely because of the armor. So I realize these things this is not SROs are not infallible, but as one of you just said, it's a good step. It's a good level of defense. Here in Saratoga, we're lucky. We're not Galway where we're 20 minutes from anywhere. We have an entire police department that's maybe 2 or 3 minutes away from every school. Although the ones that are outside the city are a problem, but they would respond to that anyway. So an SRO really needs to hold the shooter off for 3-4 minutes until backup gets there. If SRO's in a rural area, that's a different story. I feel bad for that because you got to hold them off a lot longer before you get any level of help.
Well, guys, I want to quickly, because this is such a complex issue and it's something I know we could talk about for some time, but I wanted to quickly turn and take a little turn into the slight absurd, and talk about some of the city council issues that have been coming up lately. Unless anyone has anything else to add on the school shooting issues.
I guess since our beliefs are more aligned than not, maybe in a future episode we do need to get somebody on that does have an opposing viewpoint and hear them out. Somebody from the school board or something.
Yeah, I agree. Because we're actually too like-minded. We're too like-minded on this issue. I agree.
Yeah, on both sides, right? Because we both, we all I think are pro gun control, pro SRO.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. We'll try to find. I can think back to these discussions we've had in the last couple of years and think of a few people, or if someone's watching who wants to come on, feel free to email us at info@Talking Saratoga and tell us you want to come on and talk about why you think SROs are not a good idea. We'd be totally open to that. But in the meantime, let's take a little shift to the city council and talk about kind of new scandal that has been articulated by Mayor Kim in a press release this week about this kind of alleged email scandal. The way I understand it, you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Mayor Kim is alleging that at some time in 2020, the recreation email list was taken by some politician and distributed to outside groups and outside moving Saratoga forward to be used in charter change purposes and for other political purposes. And so he's launching an investigation into how this might have happened. He's named Mayor Meg Kelly as someone who might have been involved. And it seems a little crazy because it seems to have originated because of 1 or 2 complaints from people who got an email during the school board election season that they did not sign up for. And so to me, it's like a real to do about nothing, but I'm clearly quite biased. I just wanted to know what you guys thought. And was that a proper kind of summary of how this scandal has been playing out? Am I correct?
Well, yeah, I do see a little more there than you. I'm not in a tizzy over it. If indeed the email list, which was supposed to be for recreational purposes, was taken outside of the rec department and utilized by these political, whether it's moving Saratoga forward or the school board elections or a city election, that's wrong. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be done. We should have the confidence that when I sign up for an email list, that it's going to be for that purpose and nothing more. So I do have some concern. Is Mayor Kim, milking this on political enemies? Perhaps. It seems like he's got an extra gusto and going after this, but I don't know. Something was wrong. It's apparently it got leaked out completely outside the rec department and city hall. I didn't know how that happened.
This apparently happened. The only complaint that I've heard is that I know Gordon Boyd, who has just joined the Democratic City Committee and is a fairly controversial figure in local politics. He came to public comment and said, I don't know, maybe his daughter-in-law or someone he knew received an unwanted email from moving Saratoga forward. And in his description of this, he said that this person has only ever shared their email address with their immediate family and with the rec department. They've never shared their email address with anyone else. And so the only way this possibly could have gotten into the hands of Moving Saratoga Forward is through a leak from the rec department. And I find that to be like one of the most absurd statements I've ever heard. I mean, literally, has anyone, do you protect your email address like you protect your social security number? Like, do you only give it to your immediate family and tell everyone like not to share it with anyone? Like, it just seems a little ridiculous.
Yeah, for me, this is like this is what drove me nuts during the election, during the small town city politics, where I don't doubt it happened. I think it was hilarious that Gordon Boyd, who is an activist, who is very entrenched with the Democrats and charter change, shows up and says his daughter-in-law has this email address where she never gives out to anybody, except for the rec department, right before an election, a local school board election. So obviously you had the Democrats in a room, kind of plotting hey, what can Gordon Boyd show up and let's make this a big deal and support that this email, issue is a big deal. When really for me, it reminds me of, something my 8-year-old and my 11-year-old would argue about, who gave who email out. But I agree with Dan too. There was also in 2020, I'm sure it happened, right? There was a group of politicians and a group of people outside of City Hall scheming together to get this email list. And it's just these are the little tit for tat things that I wish the voter paid more attention to on both sides, both on the this shouldn't have happened, but 2 years later, a week before another election, why is it being brought up? That's kind of immature too. I mean, it's just immature on both sides to make a big deal about this, and it's just funny how much traction it gets. It's also funny. I find it amusing how much traction that Moving Saratoga Forward gets. As a conservative, I'm not the biggest fan of them because I think they're too far conservative to show that they're making independent ideas. I like to say myself an independent thinker, and sometimes the right is right, and sometimes the right is in conservatives, or they're not right, or they should see across the aisle. So I think it kind of loses its gusto. But the fact that the Democratic, the Saratoga City Democrats reference this on their Facebook page, Moving Saratoga Forward, I just find humorous that they get so much traction in the city.
It's as you know, I posted a couple things from Saratoga Forward on my site last month or earlier this month, and I got some blowback on both sides. Like, Dan, keep doing that. You should do that. And Rob Millis wrote an op-ed countering my reasoning for doing it, and I posted it on my site on Saratoga Report. But it was spirited debate going on, and finger pointing at me from one side, and then on the other side saying, Dan, don't back down. I got a lot of contacts on this. That was kind of crazy. But let's face it, Moving Saratoga Forward, let's stop pretending they don't exist. They exist. I wish they'd attach their name to it. I don't like their style. I don't like a lot of what they say. But when they showed those school fights that I don't believe anyone else did at the time, and then finally the mainstream press picked up the stories of the violence in the Saratoga Springs schools, I tipped my hat to them. It was like they got a hold of those of those videos. They posted them. Good for them. But I don't like what they're doing. I don't like their style. I don't like that they're anonymous. We should also talk about the offshoot of the email scandal, that now the Republicans and John Kaufman are spoiling that, looking for a lawsuit, it looks like.
So it's really interesting because apparently, and I looked on the city website, and I think it is in there, when you sign up to receive an email notification from the city, I believe it does say in like the waiver that you have to check that this information could be made public through a Freedom of Information request. So I think that's like noted in there when you sign up. But like, honest to God, you guys, I've got, I think, 6 email accounts. I probably get in one of them, my Dalton Robin at Gmail, 500 emails a day. You know what I mean? Lists are bought over and over and over again by people. Lists are bought in politics here. Lists are circulated through nonprofits who are having parties, who want to invite people. I mean, there are lists that go around and around and around the city. I don't know why this has come up. It seems very politically motivated. I think it's silly. I think it's a waste of time. I think there's a lot of city business that needs to be attended to that's being ignored because of this kind of like nonsense. And I think once again, it's much ado about nothing from Mayor Kim.
But can I ask, do you think they do need to tighten this, make sure this doesn't happen again? Because principally, this should not have happened. Whether it's worth going after 2 years later,
but it's foilable. So whether you can't tighten it up, it's
I don't know that it's necessarily foilable. Everything's foilable.
Here's the thing.
unless there's an exception in the law.
I had back end access to the entire city website, right?
I'm sorry.
And I had back end access to the entire city website when I was in City Hall, because I would work on stuff for lots of different departments. Nobody, there was no IT person. I'm not IT person. There was no communication person, and so I filled in the gaps a lot of the time. Every keystroke, every click, every action that you take as user is measured. There's like a history of it. So it is not difficult to look up to see if someone's downloaded a listserv. Like, it should take like 2 seconds from an IT department. So I don't even know why that's like a controversy. It should be very easy to figure out.
Yeah. But back to that, I don't, the courts that I can see have not answered whether, the exception would be an invasion of personal privacy. Now, this rec list, maybe not. What if it was a list from the Department of Health on HIV issues? That could be,
that's HIPAA, right? So now you're moving into.
That would actually be the county, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Department of Health has it too. I'm just saying. I don't think the courts have answered that question yet of whether an email list, the release of it through FOIL, would be an invasion of personal privacy.
Well, thanks to the Republicans, I guess we're going to find out, because they're going to foil that list. So we'll see.
I know, we'll find out. Stand by for that.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, speaking of city, anything else happened at the city council meeting? I know it was disrupted because there was like a fire in the dispatch. So they stopped on Tuesday night to take a little break, right?
I think they ended it, right?
Yes, but then they resumed again the night after.
Okay.
One of the things that had caught my attention, Dan, and this is something we talked about previously about Daryl Mount and the Daryl Mount case. I've noticed on this agenda that it appears the mayor and the commissioner of accounts are stripping the director of risk and safety their responsibility of negotiating insurance claims and settlements with the insurance company. And they're trying to give that authority to the mayor and commissioner of accounts instead of giving it to the employee, Marilyn Rivers, who is the director of risk and safety. And which sounds like kind of like a really weird granular thing that most people kind of like wouldn't catch or look at or really take notice of. But it was something I took notice of because, Dan, it reminded me of what you had predicted a very long time ago on this podcast, which is that you think the city council is going to try to settle the Daryl Mount case. And I have always thought that that was not going to happen based on the way they've been litigating it and based on the conversations I've had and the knowledge I have from John Asplin, the attorney representing the city, as well as Marilyn Rivers and the position they've taken with the insurance company and so forth. So I saw this change on the agenda, and I think that, Dan, we may be headed in the direction that you predicted, so many weeks ago.
It seems like, let's face it, this city council is all in on a progressive agenda. They're not holding back. It's sort of working for them so far, anyway. When they don't trip over their own feet, the school board, the politics there are more, very, very liberal, very progressive. It seems to me that certainly is happening. There are some indications of that, that they could settle it, essentially trying to buy racial harmony, I think would be their thinking. Saratoga was accused of being racist. I think the case against Saratoga in the Daryl Mount case is terrible. I think if it's taken to trial, they don't have a strong case, and we should win. At what cost, I don't know. But as you said, that's the insurance company anyway that's paying for the attorneys. And I think they're worried that what if we do win? Is that going to bring more to the streets? Why not just make this issue go away if they can pay for a reasonable amount for a settlement? I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm guessing that may be their thinking.
Just makes me really nervous to know that decisions like settling lawsuits and how we're dealing with the legal system could be influenced by politicians as opposed to people who are literally just employed by the city to do what's in the best interest of the city and taxpayers versus do what's best for their political identity. I mean, that's really risky in my opinion.
Yes. You know what? Well, I'll put my conspiracy hat on here, but I don't think it's that hard to connect the dots of I remember a year ago when I was running for commissioner of finance, I would go to the city hall meetings or the city council meetings. Robin, you were there, and you would have these the BLM activists there screaming at the city council, calling them racist. Robin, they were talking about your family, and just really, really kind of mean spirited, kind of awful things. And then so you have this new city council who comes in, who they backhandedly defund the police, right? They defunded the assistant chief. It looks like they're making concessions to this group of people who kind of took the city hostage for a little while with the screaming and the insults of the city council and blocking our streets and our roads, and now. Where are they? We have our first African American commissioner. Where's the fanfare? It seems like and so to make the stretch of they would settle with the Darrell Mount family, spend our money, the taxpayers' money, to kind of push make their lives easier, push their political kind of progressive agenda. And for me, it just reeks of pandering to a small group in the city who are not representative of the city, and who really, really kind of, in my mind, did some really awful things to our city council, and how they singled out and how they screamed at them and how they yelled at them and calling our police racist. It's
subhuman.
Yeah, exactly.
Subhuman.
No, they're not subhuman. Yeah. They called
the police subhuman.
Yeah, that's right.
Or somebody did. One person did. Commissioner Sangvi, to her credit, stood up and shot that.
Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, I guess Saratoga is turning progressive, but this is just it's getting crazy.
As the leader of Saratoga BLM said at one point, one hand washes the other. And that's what they seem to keep doing. This city council and Saratoga BLM just keep using each other and they just go around and around and around and around. And I think it's really sad. And I think it's unfortunate that the city council has forgotten that they're not there for them. They're not there for their own personal agenda. They're not there to pander to one specific group. They're there to represent all the constituents in Saratoga Springs. And I don't think they do a very good job of that thus far. Although I have high hopes for Commissioner Golub.
Yeah, well, I guess while we're on the Democrats, Commissioner Golub, I found this interesting where the Democrats put out maybe I don't bail on them. Maybe this is good protocol, maybe not, but they appointed Commissioner Golub to this position. They then put out a request for CVs for this position to run again in November.
Yeah,
and to me, it seems like if you went with Jason Golub now. Why would you? That was you had your chance to vet people, to vet who would be best on that. Why would that change in 3 months or 4 months?
They're such assholes. But Dan, you go ahead, because I want to read you something.
Listen. The committee is not the city council. The Democratic committee. It's going to be Golub. I think they're going through the motions, make it look good. That's some old school politics. The old search when you already know who it's going to be. I don't like that, because that has its own level of duplicity. But I don't think that was a slap in Golub's face, from my view.
Wait, real quick, Rob, before you read that, do you think there's anybody other than Golub?
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I think Billy McTighe. There's a real chance it could be Billy McTighe.
Yeah.
So I just want to read you guys this. 3 days after Commissioner Golub had taken office, 3 days afterwards, and mind you, when he was appointed by the city council, there wasn't a single person from the Democratic committee there to applaud him, celebrate him, support him. No one from that committee called to congratulate him. I mean, they have not been supportive in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, 3 days into office, this email was sent out from Pat Tuz, who is the chairperson of the Democratic committee. Congratulations to Jason Golub in his appointment as interim commissioner of DPW. We are excited and look forward to Jason interviewing with our nominations committee for the nomination, which needs to be submitted by the end of July. Our nominations committee will be interviewing Jason and any other candidates that want to apply. A press release will go out soon. Now, he's the interim commissioner. He's the goddamn commissioner. Okay, so let's just start there. But to send that email out 3 days after he's been sworn in, to me is such a dick move. I know that's really crude to say. I can't even think of other words to describe it. I mean, the man has been there for 3 days, and they're already like, "Oh, thanks for getting appointed. But you need to interview with us if you want to keep doing this." And like, we're soliciting all these other resumes as well. So everybody come on down. We'll pick the best person. Thanks for doing this in the interim, Jason. Like, I was shocked. I thought it was really, really in poor taste.
Yeah, I think I'd understand if there was a year and a half to the election, but the fact the election's right around the corner, I don't know. It's not a big deal. It's just something that I think as a party they should be lockstep in. All right, this is their guy.
It shows you how much division there is. It shows you how much the McTides still control.
I will say this: I just drove past past that Pride sidewalk and in the carousel, and they I don't know if they repaved or repainted all the area around the carousel. It looks fantastic. So DPW, hats off to you guys for keeping the city looking nice.
Yeah, and I to everybody's credit. From what I've seen with the street cleaning and picking up things and so forth, the brush and the debris, I haven't seen them skip. It's been consistent. It's been we've always had a good DPW. We still do.
Yeah. But I'm just telling you that the McTides still have their hand in the city Democratic Committee. Patty Morrison, Joanne Yepsen, they still very much like their McTides, and they're going to push hard to try to get him nominated. I really think that is a possibility. I hope it doesn't happen, but I think you're seeing that there's some real divide within that tiny group of Democrats on the city Democratic Committee. They've managed to push out a lot of moderate people, and really anyone who criticizes them is, shown the door. So we're seeing the crack. We're seeing the splinters, I think.
Stay tuned to Talking Saratoga for all the insight on the upcoming election and who the Democrats nominate. Right? Well,
absolutely. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I hope you guys have big plans for the holiday weekend.
The weather's been great. I hope it continues. I haven't. I think it's going to be a little unsettled this weekend compared to the last 4 or 5 days. But as you know, we've had a little bit of ups and downs in our family, so we're just happy to get together and have a low key weekend.
Yeah. Well, unless we want to do a quick cheers and jeers and then sign off, because I don't think unless we're missing something, then I'm forgetting over here, guys. No. Lots of quiet. All right. Did anyone have a cheer and jeer for the week?
All right, I guess I'll
go ahead, Adam.
I'll start. I'll cheer the Texas border guard who, along with 2 other officers. I mean, they stacked up, which is a term, Dan, and you can speak better to I. They entered that school with an active shooter. They knew a police officer was killed 10 days earlier doing the same thing, taking on a shooter. And they brought him down, and so that's just the bravery and heroism, and the people who moved to the sound of gunfire. On this Memorial Day weekend, it's and all the people who gave their lives, really transition that into all the vets out there who are no longer with us, who died for our freedom. So cheers to them and thank you for your bravery. And the jeers, I'm going to jeer both the Democrats and the Republicans, like we talked about before, for politicizing this thing. It shouldn't be us versus them. This is a tragedy that's going on in our country right now, and we need to, as adults, come together to save our children. So let's put our politics behind us, and let's figure out some common sense, gun safety / security solutions, so we can minimize the deaths.
Thanks. I'll jump in with my jeer is going to continue on your jeer, and I agree with you on that. That our nation cannot find a way to solve this problem is the general jeer. Do I place it on Congress? Yeah, I guess, but there's other groups out there, both on all sides of the issue. Even here in New York State, and I wrote about this in my editorial. 2 years ago, Andrew Cuomo, he always did things to take credit for things. He didn't do things to do it for the right reason. He did it so he could take credit and look like a leader. So he created a task force on violent shootings that never met once. In fact, it mostly wasn't even formed. I think it only had one member of the. They dropped the ball. The state and the federal governments have been dropping the ball on this issue, and they're going to continue to drop the ball. I don't have an optimistic view of where this issue goes. There's just going to be more shootings. So I have jeers for our government for failing us. My cheer is in a much less consequential issue, but it's kind of neat, and I want to be positive here. The New York Racing Association just started a breeding farm breakfast tour package just outside Saratoga, over by Saratoga Lake at Old Tavern Farm, where people can go on Fridays, I believe, and take a tour of a breeding farm, and both to show the racehorse industry and the racehorse breeding industry, which we talked about many times on this show, how it contributes to our economy and our region, and possibly attract new breeders. There's ownership and there's breeding. Breeding is a whole nother level with its whole level of risks, but there's something wonderful about breeding as well. There's some downsides to that. Yes, I'm not all one-sided on this. I recognize some of the concerns within the racehorse industry.
Right.
This breakfast tour thing is pretty neat.
Yeah, real quick, Dan, just to extrapolate what you said, breeding is a viable business for the most part, so long as the state helps keep it that way. Horse racing is, for every dollar that goes into horse ownership, you get 50 cents out. So that's a kind of a rich man's sport, but breeding is a farming agricultural industry.
Yes.
You guys, my mind's just in the gutter. I'm trying not to hold back on all the jokes I want to make about breeding right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I have no cheer and jeer for the week. I'm just happy to be back with you guys. Looking forward to seeing you all again next week. Have an amazing Memorial Day weekend. If you know somebody who you haven't spoken to in a while, who you haven't heard from in a while, I think there's a lot of kind of depression and mental health issues going on out there, as we've seen in the acts of violence, but also just in our day-to-day lives. Check in on people around you, check in on your loved ones, check in on your friends if you haven't heard from them. I think we all need a little uplifting and positivity, and just to hear from a friend is always a nice thing. So let's all put a little positivity in the world this weekend and enjoy our Memorial Day.
All right. Stay charming, Saratoga.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching.